You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Financially Fit Podcast. I am your host, Andre Creighton. As always, I'm excited to be here with you all today and to discuss business. And on our episode today, we are going to talk about scaling smart. Really understanding when to push for growth and when to hold steady. And I think that's often a very tough balance for a lot of visionaries, business owners, because you have these audacious goals of what you want the company to be. And oftentimes we want that yesterday, right? We want that to happen right away. First, I want to take some time and thank those that continue to listen to our podcast. Our numbers are improving every single week. So please continue to share this with other business owners, founders, entrepreneurs, executives, anyone that you feel could use the knowledge that we're spreading within these podcasts. And also individuals that maybe have come to you and said, hey, I've been thinking about this idea. Maybe it's been a couple of years, right? And they've put pen to paper, but they haven't put anything in motion. This is the perfect podcast for them that might help spark that spark that into motion, right? And have them take that first leap of faith, right? And then those that are new, welcome. I hope that you find something fruitful in our conversation today. I don't try to pretend like I know it all. I never will. I consider myself a lifelong learner. However, I am a founder. I am a CFO. I do work as a consultant from a CFO perspective with founders, business owners every single day. So I do see a lot of different businesses. I do see a lot of different trends in the way that business owners operate and how that varies across various industries. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about why this is the right next step, right? I think that is the most important thing when you're thinking about whether you should scale for growth or whether you hold steady, right? And, I think really it comes down to once a business has customers, has a pricing strategy, has cash flow discipline, has support systems or staff, and has a repeatable sales rhythm. Those are the core items that can show you whether or not it's time for you to scale. Now, it doesn't mean that because you don't have one or two of these items that you aren't ready to scale, but more so, do you have a plan? Do you have an understanding of your customers? Do you have an understanding of your pricing strategy and how that shifts your customers when you do add in promos or discounts, or maybe you increase price, right? How does that affect your customer base? Your cash flow discipline. So understanding like how cash flows in and out, and what your runway looks like, and when you may need to raise more capital, or when you might need to personally inject more capital into the business. That's going to be very important for you to understand, because at the end of the day, cash is king. And then understanding when you need to hire, so to support systems, or staff to support maybe some things that you can offload as a business owner and delegate to others. And then obviously your repeatable sales rhythm. So how are you getting people into the top of the funnel, and how are you pushing them down the funnel to turn them into customers? So The next big question outside of that is, should I scale now or is it too soon, right? This is a move that makes or breaks a lot of businesses, is whether they should scale and go into hyper growth mode or whether they should keep things steady. And gosh, it's such a delicate balance. So, to grow fast is a cash strain on the business, and emotional burnout is likely, and also it's possible that your business can collapse, right? If you try to grow too fast too soon. However, on the flip side of that, if you grow too slow, you miss opportunities, you stagnate, you potentially have stagnation, and then obviously wasted potential, right? So that delicate balance is so important, and the more that we can understand the data points of our business and the stories that tell, the better that we'll be able to serve our customer base and also serve our business and be a good steward of our business. So this episode, teaches founders how to read the signs, and so they scale with intelligence and not with emotion. If you listen to other podcasts that I've talked on, I talk a lot about how your gut and your intuition is very important. However, your gut and intuition can't work in a silo, right? We need information, and information and data points are items that when those things coincide and with our gut and intuition, then we move with speed, right? And that's when you really know that when you can scale. And that goes back to some of those points I mentioned earlier in the podcast about, understanding your pricing, understanding your sales funnel, understanding your cash flow, et cetera, et cetera. So let's jump into our core talking points today. So I think first it's important for us to understand the difference between growth and scale. So growth is more work for more output, right? I'm going to say that one more time. Growth is more work for more output. So you're going to work harder, you're going to work hopefully smarter, and you're hopefully going to get more customers, more sales, right? Scale is more output without adding equal work, right? So these two are very closely, and oftentimes a lot of people intertwine them, but they are different, right? Because you can have more output but not work harder, right? Which means that you are working more efficiently. You have a good sales system. You understand your customers, right? That is what we call scale. It's repeatable. We can do things over and over. Growth, you're still very much maybe so in some of those testing phases where maybe you're going to hire, you have a thesis that, hey, if I bring on more sales reps, I can accelerate sales, right? And maybe you should have some data to back that up. But at the end of the day, there's more output being put into the business that's hopefully going to produce more work for your company to manage that, and then hopefully the growth comes. So, you know, this podcast is called the Financially Fit for a reason, because I often talk about the journey of of getting fit, like physically fit, right? Oftentimes, people have these audacious goals and they set them January 1, and they want to get, they want to get ripped, or they want to get fit during the year. And the reality is, like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the same is true in this world. And I think when we think about a fitness analogy for what we're talking about today is, growth is lifting weights, is lifting heavier weights. Scale is improving form and efficiency, so your body handles more with less strain, right? So I'm gonna say that one more time. The fitness analogy today is growth is lifting heavier weight. Scale is improving form plus efficiency, so your body handles more with less strain. So we want to put less strain on your business. We want to be able to handle more, but with less strain. Growth, we're gonna lift more. We're gonna put more into the business, and it's going to be a little bit physically and emotionally draining on ourselves. But that's where growth occurs, right? So then number two, there's really, in my mind, four signs that show when you're ready for scale. So demand is consistently exceeding your current capacity. So essentially we are seeing there's a deep need from our customer base for our product, our service, and it exceeds our current capacity. Our systems and sales processes are repeatable, so we have a playbook. We understand exactly the playbook that we need to run to increase our sales. Cash flow is stable for three plus months, right? We want to make sure that our cash flow is at a place where we feel comfortable with our runway, and that if we are in scale mode, that scale is not going to harm our cash flow, right? Which is a part of that efficiency that we talk about. And then the last one, you have at least one channel where customers show up consistently, not by luck, not uh, this is something that just occurred out of the blue. We have consistently a customer base that shows up in one of our revenue buckets. That shows that we have the opportunity to scale. So the number three, um, the four signs that show that you should hold steady. So you're constantly overwhelmed and behind. That's number one. If you're constantly overwhelmed and behind, you can't show up as your best person. Therefore, if you try to scale, you don't have likely the systems and processes in place to be able to scale. So that shows that you probably should hold steady. You should work on the processes and the systems that are going to allow you, when you are ready to scale, that now I have a playbook that I can run, and it's not going to put more drain on the company or myself as an owner. The other one is you don't have clarity around your numbers. So this goes back to understanding, like, what is revenue growth, what is our sales funnel, like how many people are entering into the sales funnel on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis. How quickly are we turning those um, new entries into the sales funnel into sales? Like, what is our sales cycle? Understanding the cash flow and like how much cash are we burning, and what does the runway look like? And then also customer experience is inconsistent or slipping. So obviously, if you're not performing from a customer experience standpoint, it is counterproductive to bring more customers into the funnel and through the sales cycle without having a ability to provide them with good customer service that's going to make them a long time customer. And this goes back to some of the things we talked about earlier podcasts around understanding the lifetime value of our customer, right? So we want to understand how much money are we going to generate off of one customer from the moment that they become a customer to the throughout the entire life cycle of them being a customer within our business. And then the last one, you're still bottlenecked with everything. If there's a lot of bottlenecks and you haven't solved that issue within your business, it's likely a sign that we need to hold steady. So then number four, we'll talk a little bit about like the smart scaling formula. So ultimately, scale should never be emotional. You should only scale when demand plus systems plus cash reserves equals sustainable growth. So that is the equation that I look for in a lot of companies that I work with as a consultant, when they're talking about scale. Like, do you have good demand? Do you have the systems in place? Do you have the cash reserves? If those things plus 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 equal sustainable growth, then we're ready to scale. If we don't have reserves, then we don't scale. If we don't have systems, then we don't scale. If we don't have demand, then we don't scale, right? We want to make sure we have these core things in our formula under control before we entertain any type of scale. And then number five, the last one, we need to have a scaling game plan. So we want to strengthen your core operations first, similar to like your fitness journey. Like, your core is so important to everything that you do when you're lifting, right? Whether that's your squatting, whether that's your bench pressing, whether that's you're doing power cleans. Your core is essential, and the stronger that we can make our core early on, the better or easier those lifts are going to be. And the same is true with your company. The more that we get our core operations in order and understand those systems, the better that we're going to be when we get to scale. Simplifying our offerings. So we want to focus on the ones that are our best sellers. Whatever our best selling product is, our best selling services, that's where we should be focusing our time and efforts, right? Because we want to turn profit as quickly as possible, right? And we want to take that money and reinvest it into the business. And that may be reinvesting into diversification of other revenue streams. But we want to focus on our core best selling revenue stream first. Scale one, this goes into the next point, which is scaling one channel at a time, not three. We want to get really hyper focused on one and get really good at what we're good at, right? Or what we had set out to be good at, right? Before we start thinking about all of the audacious visions and goals that we have to scale into other revenue streams. And then lastly, like hire or outsource to remove you as the bottleneck. So oftentimes us as business owners, when we start a business, like that's our baby. Like that is, and it's hard to let go and let others do. Oftentimes we create a bottleneck ourselves, being that we are the bottleneck. So anytime that we can intentionally hire or intentionally outsource a function or a system within our company, that is only going to help us as we are pulling together our scaling game plan. Sorry, excuse me. So, as you know, as a reflection exercise, I want you to think about a couple of things. And I want you to ask yourselves this: am I scaling because it's smart or because I'm pressured by comparison, ego, or fear? Right? So I'm going to say that question again. Am I scaling because it's the smart thing to do for my business, or is it because I'm feeling pressured by comparison of maybe competitors, or maybe it's my ego, or maybe I'm just fearful, right? Of what could happen if I don't scale. And then the other question I want you to ask yourselves: if my business doubled overnight, would it break or would it bend? If it breaks, that's a good problem to have, but it's a problem that we have to solve very quickly, right? Because we only have a limited amount of time to capture our customers' attention and to keep their attention. So if we get inundated with so many customers that it breaks our systems, we have to build new systems, and we need to do it efficiently and as quickly as possible. Or does it bend, right? Does it really bend the way that we operate or force us to think about our operations differently? And if it bends, that's good too. And we need to figure out how to get back to stable, right? So all of these are good problems to have, but these are the questions that we want to ask ourselves as we continue to think about scale. So to close out today, you know, scaling is not a race, it's a rhythm. And it's a rhythm of understanding your business and how it changes over time, right? um, just like when you're playing the piano and you're playing different keys, you can hear the different notes and you can hear how the music is evolving and changing over time, right? It's very calculated and orchestrated, right? The same is true with your business. We want to be very calculated and orchestrated with our business. So whenever you're thinking about scaling, just remember that this is truly a marathon, and it's a rhythm that we have to understand. How do we get into something that is repeatable, that is going to allow us to scale our business? So our next episode that we're going to talk about is owner pay. So profit and wealth, so paying yourself without draining your business. And I know this is a fight that a lot of business owners have, because when you're doing well, or maybe even when you're struggling, you know, you don't pay yourselves. And ultimately, we should be paying ourselves something regardless, right? Whether it's a small or it's a large payment, or ideal payment, right? We want to make sure that we're paying ourselves. However, we also want to make sure that we are paying ourselves in a way that it allows us to not stunt the growth of our business. So, God, that's a great segue into the way that I like to end my podcast. So, I always leave you all with this motto because it's so important. And what I always say is it's not about how much money you make. The power is in how much money you keep. So, thank you so much for being here with me today. I am your host, Andre Creighton. I really appreciate you all for continuing to rock with me here into 2025. Wow, I almost said 26, 2025. And I look forward for the rest of this year into 2026. Have a wonderful day and see you on the next episode.
Ready to go? At Metro Transit, we are. With more routes to more places, easy ways to pay, and more convenient options, we're ready to go further. Go easier. Go faster. Go, go, go. And go. We're ready to go. Are you?
Hey y'all, it's Shaletta. I'm an entrepreneur just like you, and I get it. As a small business owner, we just don't have enough time in the day to apply for grants. It's not that we don't need the money, we just don't even know how to write all the essays and all the other forms and stuff they're asking us for. It is overwhelming. But that's not the case with the Minnesota Promise Act grant. Round 2 is happening right now. If you've got a business in certain parts of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Greater Minnesota, there's more than $60 million available to help grow your company. And listen, I understand y'all's reservations because applying for grants ain't easy. That's why Neighborhood Development Center has trained staff to help you fill out the application. They've got appointments open now for you to go in and get the process started. Get in touch with them by going to mnpromiseact.org. And don't wait, because the deadline is December 14th.